everyone. Welcome to the January 14th of CB11 Land Use, Landmarks, and Planning Committee. My name is Derek Stampone, and I am the Vice Chair of the committee. This meeting is called to order at 6:37 p.m. Tonight, we are joined by Angel Biscayne, the staff liaison to the committee. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Raise your hand through Zoom, click the participant icon, and you will find the raise hand function there. Do not engage in a back and forth discussion. The chair will recognize the next speaker. The chat should not be used to discuss or pose questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the floor. Please keep your questions and comments brief and on topic. Members of the public, if you have a question on subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. We will now take attendance by roll call. Committee members, please answer present. Elliott. Nelson Ramos. Beverly Pavone. Derek Stampone. Present. Vinnie Torres. Present. Jason Villanueva. Henry Vasquez. I Witter. Seeing that a quorum is not present at this time, in an effort to obtain quorum, we will stand in recess for a period not to exceed 10 minutes. If a quorum is not present at the end of this recess, the meeting will be adjourned. Any outstanding business items considered at a
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Land Use, Landmarks, and Planning Committee meeting at CB11. My name is Jason Villanueva, and I'm the chair of the committee. This meeting is being called to order at 6:40 p.m. Tonight, we are joined by Angel Biscayne, the staff liaison to our committee. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Members should not engage in a back and forth discussion. The chair will recognize the next person to speak. The chat for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record when recognized. Please keep your questions and comments brief and on topic to the discussion. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment about the subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. We will now take attendance by roll call.
Nelson Ramos.
Present.
Beverly Pavone.
Present.
Derek Stampone.
Present.
Vinnie Torres.
Present.
Jason Villanueva.
Present.
Candy Vivas Vasquez.
Present.
Adoption of the agenda. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and was posted online. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Committee members, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand to be recognized. Seeing no objection, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. Adoption of the meeting minutes. The meeting minutes from November and December meetings were distributed to committee members ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we will adopt the minutes from those meetings. Committee members, if you object to adopting the minutes, you may raise your hand to be recognized. Excellent. Seeing no objection, the minutes from the last meeting are adopted. The minutes of tonight's meeting are being taken by our new vice chair, Derek Stampone. Thank you, Derek, for your leadership on the committee. Announcements. The announcements. Excellent. Just so you guys, I guess I have an announcement. Land Use is coordinating with the housing committee to do a walkthrough for this VOA project. We'll keep you. Okay, excellent. So now we can move on. Information.
Read these.
I can read them if you like. Excellent. So, the Valley Terrace Development Project, construction is set to begin by the end of January 2026 and anticipated to last 30 months. Staging will be set up along 118th Street with the existing city bike station to be relocated. Site is to be determined. New York Police Department parking lot has been vacated, temporary parking has been obstructed, obtained near the Proton Center and beneath the Park Avenue Viaduct. Hiring fairs for construction opportunities are upcoming. The developer and general contractor will coordinate outreach with local elected officials and the community group. The Longo has secured funding to purchase the 20,000 square feet of cultural space. It will operate as an Afro Latin Music and Arts Center. Number two, request for proposals from the Harlem African Burial Ground Cultural Operator. The Economic Development Corporation, in cooperation with the Development of Cultural Affairs, is seeking proposals from parties interested in conceptualizing and operating a cultural educational center and providing programming on the history of the Harlem African Burial Ground and its continued relevance. Respondents may be, among others, existing nonprofit organizations, proposed new nonprofit organizations, or custodians or partnerships that include individuals, nonprofit organizations, or for-profit entities. An in-person informational session will be held at the Meridian Cologne Ballet Theater at the Julia de Vargas Latino Cultural Center on Monday, January 26, 2026 at 6 p.m. A virtual information center will be held on Monday, February 2nd, 2026 at 3 p.m. via Microsoft Teams. Those who wish to attend should RSVP by email to HAVG operator at edc.nyc. For more information, you can visit the website. That's updates. Any questions about updates? We'll reach out to the relevant agencies and or development teams to come in person and this week. Update on administration changes to zoning resolution regarding the city of Yates, presented to us by George James.
Great. Can I share my screen? Yes, you can. I actually have one informational update, if you don't mind, Chair, to just spend a minute on before I get started. Okay. And that would be this. Okay, so just the informational update is the Manhattan Plan. So you may have heard people talking about the Manhattan Plan. It was released 2 weeks ago. It was this planning process that the Department of City Planning went through, and this document came out. It's 200 pages long. I have to say, as a planner, this is not a plan because it has no recommendations. There are no recommendations in this plan. It's a series of strategies, and there's all of these, strategies to increase housing in Manhattan, which DCP reports that they heard during the public engagement. But there's really not much new in it. They engaged with these stakeholders, a bunch of architects, land use lawyers, real estate developers, labor unions, lobbyists, and then a few community-based organizations as well. And and then for the public, they had the public go to a website and they asked people, this is the first screen you saw, where you wanted to see more housing in Manhattan, and you were given this map, the census tract map, and Central Park appears to have most of the response, or have the most responses. And let me just say, that's all I'm going to say about this, because I just don't think there's much to really comment on. But you could look at it. Some of the strategies are, it's probably good that they're documented because they were largely discussed during City of Yes, but not necessarily documented in such a. That was it. Happy to answer questions. I did read it.
I can speak for us. Some of our interests is, and talking about, planning for CB11. There's been a lot of conversation in the last 2 or 3 months. So I just want us to, continue to think in that fashion so that way we can populate something. So when Manhattan plans or government plans come out and there is no direction, we should have a response. Our
Completely agree.
response should be attached to our zoning, our response should be attached to our POA, and our response should be attached to our modern day 2026 interest of planning. Like a specific one that came up was when we were having all these discussions about the 125th Street viaduct, how to coordinate that. Right? So seeing those issues and challenges, I find interest in organizing and collaborating. And again, it doesn't have to all fall on land use, but there's other committees that we coordinate with and be able to be proactive in providing responses. No different than the state of the district.
So if I can comment on that, I agree wholeheartedly with everything you just said. And then I see something like the Manhattan Plan, right, which essentially did very little community level, just almost none. And there was still so much effort that went into it. And then I wrote up a series of questions that I sent in. No. I know that Angel asked them to come to present it. No, they didn't ask. They were like, no, I'm not doing that. And so, like,
Answer George's questions? No.
They're afraid of you.
Somebody would be
But
holding
if
to
insults and injuries, not even to come and speak to us.
Yeah,
You're telling us about this and we're interested about it. Right. You know, come in and have a conversation so then that way if there's any advocacy or more importantly, questions that can be but it sounds, I don't know the bureaucracy. Is this something that is going to get kiboshed now with the new mayor?
I can't imagine it going forward and doing anything because there's no recommendations in it. I mean, it's very often when you adopt a plan, you have these recommendations and they're formally adopted, you have to like consider them in future environmental reviews. There's like this consistency element of them. There's no recommendations in here. There's like literally zero.
Right.
It's
But bar the, I mean, this plan was approved, right? Bar the,
yeah, it's about
right?
right before the end of the Adams administration.
So, right, so now, amendments, right, be proposed to the,
So there are no amendments being proposed here. There is not even a recommendation that amendments are being proposed. That's why I don't even like to call it a plan, Vinny, right? Because
it might have come back.
it's like a report. It's a report.
It's gonna come back by another round of approval.
Or the new administration and mayor will go in a different direction. And this will just,
Commercial.
right.
But that,
It's not, I don't think completely related, but I guess you're probably aware, the city council passed that bill to start a feasibility study into building affordable housing on Ward's Island. So, you know, that obviously is very early on in the process. I get that they didn't need to come here and really run by us. I'm surprised that we didn't ever have it talked by here, but it's just something to keep on the radar. I mean, I think it's a good thing, but I think they're starting a feasibility, they're looking to do a task force of some kind. So I think it'd be better to, get in that problem that sooner than later. So, I see that's Randall's Island, right?
Yeah.
So,
I think if that's in our district, we should have representation, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm reaching out about it.
Right. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jim. Yeah, but new year, new interest, new administration. So we have a lot of work ahead of us in that retrospect. So, I find interest in it. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for us to properly advocate and organize our district, at least in the next 3 months. And we're not have to wait until Mandani gets too ahead. George, you got anything else?
Yeah,
on
yeah.
this, or you wanna go to-
I can go with the next. That's
Anybody have any other questions about the Manhattan plan?
okay. Okay, so this is really more informational than anything else, but it's something that I discovered that I think is important that I wanted to share with people, and Angel thought it would be, and the chair thought it would be appropriate for this meeting. So DCP has been making many changes to the zoning resolution. There's these things called administrative corrections, and administrative corrections have been around for years. But it used to be that administrative corrections were occasional. there are over 200 sections of the zoning resolution that the Department of City Planning has amended over the past year. And most of these are small, obvious errors, you know, in the spirit of administrative corrections, like the cross-reference is wrong. It was supposed to be, you know, 2356 and it was 2347, right? And they fixed that. That's most of this. But DCP decides when there is an error in the zoning text and then amends the zoning without any oversight, right? And you don't even know what they changed. There was not even a red line version or a reason why they made the change. And you know, again, I want to say most of these errors are tiny, but I found an error. And it was really disturbing, and I want to share that experience. So as a part of my review of the charter revision, right, last year, we were doing the charter revision ballot proposals. I wanted to know if it was possible for rezonings that went through EULR to happen without mandatory inclusionary housing, right? So you have this abbreviated EULR, you know, could you do this and not have MIH? And I remembered that in City of Yes, when we were going through that process, it included this requirement that we had that R11 and R12 districts must only be mapped in MIH areas. All right, I remembered that. That was in my head, but I could not find it anywhere in the zoning resolution. I was just like, oh my God, I'm getting so old.
Senile.
Had I misremembered? Am I going senile? And so I went back to the text that was referred out to the community boards to see if I was hallucinating. And yes, so this is the section that you all got, like it was the commented version. And it had this section of text which said R11, R11A, and R12 districts may only be mapped in mandatory inclusionary housing areas. It was in the text. And I was like, all right, maybe City Council took it out. So I went back to the version that was approved by City Council, and it was like, no, it's right there. There were changes that were made by the City Planning Commission in this section, but not to that section. That sentence was approved by City Council, which means that it was law. But that sentence, and this is a screenshot from that time, from September 2025, that sentence is missing, right? It's gone. It was supposed to be at the end of that at the end of the long paragraph. It should have been there. And so I was like, somebody just failed to update the online text. So like when City Council passes something, it's got to go to technical people at the Department of City Planning, upload it on the web. Did that happen? So what I did was, after the zoning was adopted, I downloaded a local copy onto my computer, right? And so I had a copy that was done 7 days after City of Yes was adopted. And it was there, right? It's there. That sentence is there. And so this sentence was deleted from the zoning text after it was adopted and posted.
Deliberately.
And let me just say, this wasn't a random sentence, okay? So before this sentence, the mapping of MIH areas, and we spent a lot of time talking about mandatory inclusionary housing, that is entirely an internal DCP policy when they get mapped. Requirements for when MIH areas are mapped are not in the zoning resolution. They're not even in a DCP rule that would require a rulemaking process. It is an internal DCP policy, which they've applied consistently. I don't want to say that they're not doing their job. They are doing their job. But policies, they can change without notice. They can change without a public process. It's not even like a rule where you'd have to have a hearing on it. And this sentence is the only place in the zoning resolution that declaratively states that certain zoning districts must be in MIH areas. And then it suddenly went missing, right? Like and this was me. Like I'm like the only person that knows about this. Like, and I'm like, what? So I went to City Council, and I went to City Council, and they're like, And they responded immediately. They were like on top of this, and they were like, they independently verified that the text was missing, and they contacted DCP, and DCP was like, oh, we made a mistake. The missing text, and it was put back in, and it's there today. It's not not an administrative change. And it is possible that the text was deleted in error, since this change was never marked as an administrative correction. It just disappeared, right? It just disappeared. And likely, had I not seen this, no one would ever know. But at minimum, even if it was an error, it's a concerning error. Like, back when we relied upon a print version, right? The print version was the official version. The online version had this disclaimer saying, you can't count on this, you've got to count on the print version.
Oh, it throws that in.
Right? That's what it used to say. It doesn't say that anymore because there is no print version that's kept current anymore. The zoning resolution is what's on there.
Wow. Now that governs.
So, so I have these questions, like what safeguards has DCP put in place to prevent these errors from reoccurring? Because, they shouldn't be able to just delete whole sentences from the zoning resolution. Or can they? And here's the thing. Turns out, had this sentence been marked as an administrative correction, DCP could have just deleted the sentence, and when council called them, they could have said, well, we had to correct that. It wouldn't have been in the spirit of administrative corrections, which are supposed to be tiny little things, but I think it would have been possible because there is literally no oversight. There is no one looking over DCP's shoulders, asking questions, approving changes. They have the sole discretion over administrative changes. And I contacted the law division at City Council. They were like, yeah, that is their job. That is part of their job. It is their sole discretion. They do not document why they're making the change. They're not documenting how they're making their change. And we know that there have been consequential changes because of this. So the Department of Buildings had to release a construction advisory. This is a copy of it, and I'm going to just read this part of this Department of Buildings document. Due to the high volume of changes, applicants are strongly advised to review zoning text carefully and check for the black squares even after a permit is issued to ensure compliance with the most recent corrected version of the zoning resolution. Unlike text amendments that provide vesting opportunities of the old zoning text, filing subjects to administrative corrections, the 200 changes that they made, may receive new zoning objections at any point, even after the issuance of DOB permits, but prior to the issuance of final certificate of occupancy.
There you go.
Okay, so why is it, like the architect in the room started going, holy crap?
Exactly.
Because that is like,
Right.
holy cow, because you can build your building. DCP can make an administrative correction, and then you have to change your building so that it complies with that administrative correction, right? I mean, this is like,
That's what that's saying.
that is
That's what that's saying.
so this is like,
I
this is,
mean, but respectfully, I understand because it's a regulatory agency. They expect the applicants and the professionals that are licensed to follow through what's
Absolutely.
happened in the past is that they did it. Where today, they're kind of giving back that authority to those professionals, but still keeping the public involved because, these buildings go up or like the scaffolds go up and no one says anything for years. And I can see some of the challenges with trying to be administrative and getting things through, but I also can see some of the gifts with ensuring that the professionals that are licensed that have the opportunities to execute can continue to execute.
well, yes, but I think the big difference right now between earlier times is the fact that they've made so many of these changes. 200 sections of the zoning resolution have been amended just over the past year since the city of Yes.
Wow.
Over 200 sections. Now, I can't say that I have even looked at a tiny fraction of that because there's no good way to review it because there is no red line version. They don't. You have to go
You don't
back to
know.
an old version, compare it to the new version, go like back and forth like that, and there's no explanation why they've done it. And again, a lot, the ones I have checked, there have been like, oh yeah, there's a section number that's wrong, and it's like obvious. But
I guess the question, what do the legislators do? Aren't they, like, we're talking a lot about the executive branch and the judicial. Shouldn't the like how you caught it, like, shouldn't a legislator have caught that?
I think so.
Especially, like, shouldn't the Manhattan Borough President's land use planner that gets paid from the government headquarters? I mean, there's just so many titles I hear of all the time in government. And
Yeah.
It's like, don't they get paid to handle that?
Why is it? It's not my job.
If I start over analyzing the public, then I'm questioning my tax money and then I question corruption. Yeah, then.
Two things. I'm not trying to be funny with the first one, but if you had an old version and a new version, and you uploaded them both to ChatGPT, and said, "Give me the differences," just to identify them, then you could get quickly to whatever page it is, not rely on what they told you the difference was. But if they're like, if it's on page 822, you go there and you see your own. That's just one idea. And then the other thing is, so if city council noticed something, went to them and said something, they still have they can just say too bad. Like they don't have to give it, like if you said they said to them why, they don't have to give them the why about why they changed it. So
it's so funny. I've been asking the lawyer, the one lawyer who talks to me at council,
that discretion.
And he said essentially that it's DCP's sole discretion. If it was a big deal, I'm sure they can make mistakes. Think about it, right? I think the details matter on that, and they're likely not going to spend the capital unless it is a big deal, right? But here's the crazy thing: is that no one's looking at it, right? No one is looking. This is no one's job.
Because if $1 billion corporation, an entity that actually had the money, would use this argument to justify whatever they want to get through that, maybe we would want to contend, but couldn't. Because
they didn't find any
they deleted the sentence in the law.
Yeah.
So now that developer is going to use the law against the city. So it makes sense. I get your concern. I guess my question is, what relevance or advocacy could we have to test this to ensure our elected officials are representing us?
Sure. Can I?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
All right. So I'm not a political person in any way, right? But I know that there's probably a policy or a local law or something here, because it just seems like a mistake to let DCP identify the errors and then change the zoning resolution without any oversight. Because through this whole process, we argue and talk about words, like the words of the zoning resolution, which are really important. And it's part of like this whole process. And then after it's done, somebody just says, "Oh yeah, that was a mistake." And you know how they determine whether there's something in the mistake? At least one way is that an architect comes to them and says, "This is like, you couldn't have meant this because that meant I have to do this." And they go, "Oh yeah, all right, so we'll make that change." And so you have a vested interest that is essentially getting these changes made without oversight. And it seems to me like that's the thing, is that you want oversight or a process or something that just says, okay, you do what you do, but just publish it, publish the reason why, and just let little light shine on it. And that's something that a local law could do. They could say that, right? They could pass a local law and say, yeah, you got to do that.
So your example that you found about the R11 and R12. So hypothetically, that never went back up there. If something got zoned as R11 or R12 that should have had MIH.
Right.
Someone could come in later before the file survey occupancy is done and challenge it.
Absolutely.
And then they can come back and say, maybe that doesn't change how the building's built, but at least then how it's divvied up. Can you give an example of some other change that like could be a problem, like the building would have to be reconstructed or something about the building would have to be changed?
Oh, sure. I mean, the size of courts or yards or coverage. Like there are many things that that I mean,
That have
because,
been ACs, like have been administrative
well,
changes
so
to fix like a number, like it should be 50, but it's
So
actually
I-
60.
Derek,
That's a small thing.
let me.
You don't know.
These are. I have not gone through even close to most of these. Right. These are all the sections that have been changed. Right. Every single one of these is a section number. And when I go look at it, it's all right. So I can tell what it deals with. Like that deals with community facility buildings, and that deals with commercial buildings and residential buildings in commercial districts, right? So I know, basically what it's dealing with, but they're also dealing with things like definitions, right? So what these first ones are, they're changing the definition of floor area and transit zones and semi-detached buildings, and like it goes on, and it's like, when you start changing the definitions, like that's a big freaking deal. And they're changing the definitions of a lot of things. Now, I understand, they talked a little bit about the whole ancillary dwelling units, the accessory dwelling units. They had to make some changes because actually they screwed that up, and they talked about that a little bit. And the July ones deal with that, right? And okay, fine. But you talked about those, but you didn't talk about any of these others, right? And I think that's the thing that concerns me about this. And why am I talking about this to you all? Is that I don't know who else would care about this, right? This is like, I don't know who else to tell. I mean,
We're glad to be out.
You all are part of
If you
the.
don't mind, George, it's funny, you were speaking and alerting us, and I'm worried and they're lit, and I say that to say this, I'm like, you're a fan use advocate, you're a planner. Where's your community at in this of professionals that we can start to maybe collaborate and have a discussion to express concerns both for constituents, because needless to say that the district, we're speaking French or German to some of our people. And we want to advise them that all we're trying to do is ensure that your protections remain in place.
Yeah.
Because a mass load of changes happened, specifically, in my opinion, during this whole pandemic era, with us going from lack of a better word, analog and manual to technical and automated, and a lot of, it's a possibility that it may not affect us, Jason and Nilsa today, but it may affect our grandkids.
No, absolutely. And so your question is a good one. I have not really spent a lot of time going to other peers about this, though I did go to the zoning division of the Department of City Planning to ask a whole bunch of questions. And I sent them a big long email with all of these questions, and they did not respond to me. I forwarded it again like 2 weeks later. They responded to me. They're not responding to me, and part of that may have to do with the fact that there's a new administration. Dan Garodnick has resigned, but is still there. But he's going to be replaced. The executive director is also an appointee. She will probably be gone as well. So they don't have leadership, right? And there's people coming in and they don't want to get out in front of that. That may be part of it, and that's why they're not responding, because normally they may not like me, but they respond to me typically, and so this is atypical, the fact that they have not responded, and that they didn't respond about the Manhattan plan as well. But that was going to be my, I wanted to get information from them, right? It's like hear their side of the story.
Yeah.
But I'm not, because they're not responding to me, and so I did talk to one other community board about this, and there was an elected official rep in the room, and they're like, "Let's pass a law. We can do this. We can like." And
There's
so,
a former Harlem member there, Ken Nichols. He's the vice chair. He's still part.
Yeah, he's still there.
He might be somebody that can be outreached to. He's a Harlem light.
You know, I don't know
Conversation.
how much the chair, how much the commissioners are involved in this, right? This is like, kind of like the geeky,
It
you know,
is.
zoning division people who are doing
Nobody's
this, right?
super interested, but it's extremely critical.
It is.
What you just pointed out, first of all, George, thank you for that effort. And like Jason says, it's true. This is like German and French to me. I'm here for 10 years. I'm getting some of this, and I'm seeing the importance. So thank you for the time on that part. Certainly, some type of corrective measures, some suggestions that we can come up with collectively. Maybe then we can do a resolution or something to kind of like
This
put
came,
something together.
this was from your, basically your presentation, is these errors and omissions are coming out of this, city of Yes, right?
Yep.
Which was approved and is in law.
Yep.
And we as constituents, the law just got passed, it just got enacted. The charter revisions just happened recently, which are also affecting ULUPs. And, you know, we have every right as this body, if so moved to, and again, think about it, you know how I operate, maybe it's 60 days, but I'm hearing that a resolution might need to be charged. So that way we can put them on notice that these are our concerns for our district in, you know, with a few of the examples and call to order of our elected officials to do their jobs, especially now with new administrations. There seems to be a lot, not just the mayor. You know, I mean, we even have a new city council member for our district, which congratulations, council member and council. So you get where I'm going, right? Like, so the time is now, right? People have interest. There's new administration. There's new rhetoric, new policy that's want to be made. Like that elected official made that statement to you, then that's maybe something we can collaborate with, because I do want to ensure that whatever we do is in the best case efforts for the future of our district. Anything else, Mr. J?
You know, that's all I had on this. I appreciate the fact that it was received in the spirit it has been. So thank you.
Yeah, I will say I'm concerned. If we catch something like that, and then all these people are there, they're telling us that they have to respond. And if it's not going to be DCP, then we'll find the agency. OMB, DCP, MIB.
Who knows how many of these passed through already by any MIH?
I'm sorry, say that.
Who knows how many passed by any MIH?
This is what justifies Trump's argument.
We could have had a ULIP or two that have gone through without having any MIH.
Well, you know,
When it was required.
let me.
Because it was removed. I mean, that was kind of.
I don't think-
it was an accident.
I don't think any have, because DCP has been applying their policy consistently. I haven't seen them not apply that.
You might dig through the woods and just find that one land use ULIP that got through. I wonder where that district would be. Probably a district that doesn't welcome MIH. I don't think that thing was removed by mistake.
Maybe.
That's deliberate.
Well, I don't.
People do things deliberately with an agenda.
For the record,
That's-
I agree with you. I do
I'm just
not
saying.
think that was removed by mistake.
That wasn't a mistake.
I think it was.
Not that.
You don't remove a sentence in the middle of a section like that. Right?
A big hit sent it to. Oh yeah, this is mandatory MIH.
They should just made another little.
That's
edit
human
there,
GPT.
So they gotta look like
Yeah,
they
right.
were. Like a little period, and they're we're on that page.
Yeah.
Thank you, George, again for your presentation, because I think it spearheads our interest in collaborating with the agencies, CBOs, and more importantly, you know, these new electeds. We have a big administrative push, and I think it's in the interest of the committee and the board. Luckily, we have our chair here, which congratulations, Chair Adem, to say the least that, you know, I'm excited. I don't know about you all, but I find interest in finding ways to serve our people, and I hear that there's a lot of work for us to do in the coming months to get that done. And again, that's a collective effort, right? So it doesn't always have to happen here within the hour or two, but we can continue to collaborate and have these robust conversations, which brings us to the next point of our agenda, which is simply old business. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the POA again, just to remind us. It's downloadable offline. I do want to reach out to the agencies that were involved and have a conversation, but more importantly, I would like for us to be educated, right, and familiar. If there's any questions, old, new, future members that are online or who are listening that want to collaborate and start strategizing how to plan to be effective in that conversation, please do reach out to myself or Angel or Derek. That said, I don't have anything else on the POA, which that will tie into the urban plan.
I'm sorry, as far as old business,
Yeah.
just to let people know the zoning for the 125th Street site was passed and it is now law, and it is still a C6 district. They did not take your recommendation to make it a C4 district. The MTA. Yeah, that is correct. Yes, thank you. The MTA.
Who was it that didn't accept the recommendation or didn't adopt
The
the changes?
It would be the City Planning Commission. They acknowledged the fact that the community board wanted to go to a C4 to
Right.
ensure that there would be more housing and less non-residential development, and they declined to take your recommendation.
There you go.
Well, that's good to me. I guess me and Don will be having conversations about that one. Are there any more of those from the last year or two that we know of? With us thinking, you know what, let's hold that.
Okay.
Let's have that conversation for the coming time.
Sure.
Because I want us to be as active as possible, and I think some of these agencies need to be written up, particularly even like our borough president's office, which I have an issue in the past where we voted and supported something, and right after us, they voted against it. So, at the bare minimum, we should at least express our discontent and the reasons why we made that.
George, from when they presented it to us, were there any other substantial changes made by city council before they voted on it?
So I read the City Planning Commission report and I looked at the online map. I did, and I saw the big picture. The zoning districts hadn't changed. There were some little text things which were approved by city council. I'm sorry, city planning. I did not read the any changes made by the council. I don't think they made it, but I did not. I can report back next meeting and confirm that.
That would be appreciated. The last line item for all business is ECF. Just again, it's in the same status. We're going to follow up with ECF to see if there's any news about them selecting a developer. And any of you have any recommendations for swing space for ECF? I know that Jennifer had made requests. Yes, sir.
In regards to, Jim, different sites that would house both buildings for both schools? That's what they're looking for?
Yes.
Or two separate sites with each school?
You know, that's a good comment. We can ask that question.
Okay.
I don't think it would preclude us to ask that question. If they need two spaces or if they can use one. I think if it's already in one space, then we want to transfer to one space. But if there's an opportunity, because I think real estate, it was her biggest argument. It's been a challenge within the district to find those spaces. But that might bring us to some conversations again with planning for HPD and the zoning. I mean, not zoning, zombie lots. Maybe we have that. Maybe that could push a trigger. I mean, listen, there's a lot of avenues. We can continue to have this conversation. Any other questions? All right, excellent. That being said, there's no new business. We'll take roll call and adjourn.
Jessica Elliott,
Present.
Saul Rama,
Present.
Beverly Capone,
Present.
Everest Stone,
Present.
Rudy Torres,
President.
Jason Villanueva,
Present.
Candy Vivas Vasquez, Matt Whitaker. We have four.
Excellent. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned at
I'm gonna wait till he presses hang up.
7:03.